What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Happy Thursday and good morning to you. This is the Paul Harrell program, and we've got a great show for you. Yes, taxpayer barbecue. J.D. Vance exposing at least $230 billion of fraud when it comes to all of these programs that people can apply for that are supposed to be for the truly needy. And if you question it, then, you hate poor people, and yet they're using that idea to pull at our emotional heartstrings to fleece the taxpayer. And come on, you and I both know it's a lot more than $230 billion. Rob Spencer's been saying that this is, well over $1 trillion a year, and I think he's right. I think Elon Musk proved that in the first 5 months of the Trump administration 2.0. We're going to spend some time. The front of the program is kind of J.D. Vance loaded because he's actually did this interview with Laura Ingraham as well. There's a lot of he's actually re-engaged with Twitter, kind of insinuated that somebody is fat for eating too many burritos. There actually is an entire Twitter sphere, X-sphere conversation right now about the affordability and how expensive burritos are. So we're going to get into that as well. Also, they're supposed to vote today on Anthony Fauci's being found in contempt of Congress or not. And this is happening as Stephen A. Smith is once again in the news. We covered him yesterday for going off on the WNBA, trying to apologize for trans women or, not protecting women's sports. Now he's going off on Anthony Fauci because he took 3 shots and then got COVID and almost died. But if it wasn't for ivermectin, he says he would have been killed. So it's kind of crazy, or he would have died. Kind of nuts. Everything coming true. Again, conspiracy theorists are right. We just all we need is time to basically prove all of us right and justify us. Anyway, that is the show. We're going to get started right now. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us. Broadcasting live from the state of Arkansas from Live from America TV. And we are also over at YouTube, Paul Harrell Program YouTube. And so wherever you're watching the show, like, share, subscribe, boost the video out wherever you can. We would very much appreciate it. And my co-host in seat number 2, Rob Spencer. Rob.
Paul, it's great to see you. It's interesting that, I've never really caught J.D. Vance fumbling. I've never really caught him misstepping. And so I'm all for him talking more. I want him to be interviewed by everybody because I think that it's great. The more J.D. Vance talks leading up to these primaries, the better it's going to be for this administration. He is extremely articulate. You cannot shake him. Him and Rubio are the 2 best spokesmen for this administration and leading up to these midterms. So I love it that J.D. Vance is talking. I hope he continues to talk, and we're going to go over some of that stuff. And Stephen A. Smith is sounding a whole lot like a guy that because if you're Stephen A. Smith has been a liberal, he's a Democrat, all of that stuff, and at the very least, he's an independent these days. Yeah. And so we're going to see his. We got to
remember. I remember Stephen A. Smith going on the Sean Hannity show. Sean.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Come on, that's not a bad impression.
It's not bad. You're still going to break out the Tim Burchett one day, and people are going to realize how incredible it is.
Well, listen, the Stephen A. Smith, though, I do remember he used to have these performative interviews on Sean Hannity's radio show back in the day. And they would get on there and take opposite positions, and
sure.
it was very entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
he's kind of Stephen A. has come full circle, and he's not the only one, but he's just got a very, very big platform.
Yeah. So yeah, no doubt he does. Before we can do anything else though, and get into the taxpayer barbecue, I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by Healing Veterans Project. That's healingveteransproject.us. Email Paul at healingveteransproject.us if you have a business or know of somebody that's got a business and you want to connect us. We're looking to get into point-of-sale business or retail businesses, and we want at the point of sale for your customers to be able to donate $1, $5, or whatever they want to the Healing Veterans Project. Now, what is the Healing Veterans Project? Well, it's a charity that's founded by a veteran who also believes in something called red light therapy, also known as photobiomodulation, a proven scientific method to energize your cells, heal your cells, decrease inflammation, help you sleep better, help with anxiety, help with nerve pain, help with PTSD, all sorts of things. The Healing Veterans Project, we've got a list of veterans that have been prescribed these panels by doctors, but the VA won't pay for them. And so that's where Healing Veterans Project comes in. They'll give them pharmaceuticals and opioids, but not the healing power of red light. So go to healingveteransproject.us for more information. If you want to donate yourself individually, we would very much appreciate it. You just scan the QR code you see on your screen, and you can donate one time or monthly or set it up however you want to do. We want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by Healing Veterans Project, and we are super excited to do this moving forward, because this is one of those things where, I mean, it's so easy. I mean, these panels, depending on which what the doctor has prescribed, are anywhere between $1,000 and $2,500, right? Mm-hmm. So we really can't think about this. It's not like, well, we got to raise $200,000 to build a veteran a home, which there are those organizations that do that. That's great, but we're not talking about a lot of money here. You can literally help a veteran heal with $1,000 donation. You know what I mean? So, and I know that's a lot of money, but you know what I mean? This is a very clear-cut drive mission, and we can accomplish it. That's the thing. We can actually help these veterans. This charity is 2 to 3 weeks old at this point, and so we're going to do it, folks, and we're going to do it with your help. So we really appreciate all your support out there.
Yep. We love our LFA audience as well. Appreciate you all in the chat. Looks like the boss has joined us in the chat as well. And so looking forward to going over all the topics of the day for the next 2 hours.
All right, so here's the deal. It is time for Taxpayer Barbecue. Let's get to it. So for this edition of Taxpayer Barbecue, it's, J.D. Vance. There's a task force, that involves a couple of people. One of them, Stephen Miller. One of them's J.D. Vance. And then there's this other guy that I've got his name here because we have a clip. Yeah. We're going to get to him here in a minute.
And this was formed after the Minnesota stuff, Nick Shirley. After
the Nick Shirley thing. And then, you even had that Tyler Oliveira one out in, where was that? In Texas, exposing the Indians. He was exposing the Indians. We've had a couple of these, right? But yeah, it was the Minnesota one that really kicked it
Nick
off.
Shirley's went the most mega viral.
Yeah.
And, and I love it that it was Nick Shirley, because as he said on an interview, he's like, I'm a virgin. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I've never been arrested. Like, what are you gonna come after me with? What are you gonna say about me? And I love it too that he's just a normal kid, and he exposed billions, if not potentially, once they go all the way down this rabbit hole, trillions of dollars of fraud.
Yeah. And so the outrage, this is I would say this is one of those things where, they are trying their best to address this as fast as they can, and I think that they are. But listen to what J.D. Vance said yesterday at this press conference.
Fraud is really a dual victim crime. The most obvious victim, of course, is the American taxpayer, who has their hard-earned tax dollars stolen from them to enrich people who are violating our laws and taking advantage of our country. But I think more profoundly and more sadly, the second victim of fraud are the people who benefit from programs that the American people have set up in their generosity and in their kindness of spirit, and those programs don't function as well or don't even have the resources necessary to work because they've been stolen from by fraudsters. I think an example that is particularly close to my heart, because we have a 2-week-old newborn at home, is a program that we set up through the Medicaid program to actually provide high-quality health care to new moms and to newborn infants. To people who can't afford high-quality health care, we, as a generous nation, ensure that they have access to the resources that they need. And yet, we have, working with DOJ and others, we have identified, prosecuted a number of cases of people where they have taken from this program, not provided an ounce of service to a new mom or a young baby, and enriched themselves by literally taking money from the medical care of newborn infants. This is despicable behavior, and it's something that we've allowed to go on for too long in the United States of America. I'm very proud that you could not just look at these sort of qualitative stories about what's going on, but we can actually measure the success of the fraud task force. Working with Andrew Ferguson and with Steve Miller, two of the great all-stars of the Trump administration, we have been able to identify $230 billion of fraud just since the fraud task force was set up.
All right, so we got more to get to.
Yeah.
So
in just a few months,
initial reaction.
Yeah, in just a few months, $250 billion. Again, I've said this on the show before. A million seconds ago was last week. Mm-hmm. A billion seconds ago was the early 1990s. A trillion seconds ago, Jesus was walking the earth. Folks, I don't think that we truly quantify in our brain just how much money, when you're talking about when you get into the billions and the trillions of dollars. And with us, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I believe Elon Musk when he says that it's at least $1 trillion a year in fraud, maybe more. And you think about that we are $2 trillion upside down, going in debt, $2 trillion every year. We're upside down. Soon, pretty soon, the interest payment on our debt is going to be the largest bill that the United States has to pay, just because we have so much debt. And it's stuff like this. Everybody, the Democrats just want to raise taxes, Paul. The Republicans are coming in and saying, why don't you just spend the money that you have a little bit better?
Yeah.
The
Democrats want to raise taxes so the government gets more money that then they can allow to be stolen by their own people.
More suitcases of cash. There was allegedly $300 million worth of cash being flown out of the country. I'm still shocked by that, Paul. Mm-hmm. Dudes are walking through the airport with $300 million in cash. That's like out of a movie.
Yeah,
how the hell is that even possible?
It's like an Ocean's 11 style when they walk out of the casino with $160 million.
Yeah, with these duffel bags. And you're just like, how the hell is this even possible? And what bank has $300 million in cash just sitting around? Like, how is this even possible? And so they're carrying this stuff out and getting on an airplane. How the hell are you getting through security?
Again, somebody in the TSA had to be in on it. Then this was a reoccurring thing.
The level of fraud, and everyone is getting rich off of it. And so this, to me, is just the beginning. We've got to push harder.
Here's so the good news is that it's being exposed. I think it's way more than $230 billion. To your point, $1 billion is $27,000 spent every day for 100 years. That's how much $1 billion is.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So for 100 years, and at the end of the 100 years, you still have a little bit left over. The bad news in this, in my opinion, is that J.D. Vance is asking for Congress to codify the reforms that need to be made in order to stop the theft.
Can't imagine what the problem with that's going to be, Paul.
Right.
Can't imagine what that's going to be because, folks, we're naive if you don't think Republicans are funneling money back to their campaigns as well.
Yeah.
We all understand that special interest has a huge issue here, but it's, my cousin over here owns this medical supply company, okay?
Yep.
And we're gonna make sure that they are well funded, and my cousin's gonna be giving me a kickback, folks. That's politics. We know that crap is happening, but I'm hoping that this is just maybe the start. Well, I guess if you would call it the Nick Shirley would be the start, but when the official office of the president here, and specifically through the vice president, is on this task force or leading up this task force, I at least have some hope that we're going to get some kind of reforms because, it's going to be really hard if J.D. Vance and Donald Trump keeps beating the drum of this fraud. If they keep beating this drum, it's going to be really hard for senators and members of the House on either side of the aisle to ignore it.
Here's more from Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday.
All stars of the Trump administration, we have been able to identify $230 billion of fraud just since the fraud task force was set up. And that's frankly by conservatively estimating it. Andrew and I had a meeting in my office last week, and he said, do you want to estimate it conservatively or do you want to estimate it aggressively? And I said, well, I kind of want to estimate it aggressively, but then all you people will criticize us. So let's estimate it conservatively so that we can give the American people the most rock-solid explanation of how this task force is working to protect their money. We've been able to stop $56 billion in fraudulent payments that would have otherwise gone to fraudsters rather than to the people who need them. And in the process, we've saved, obviously, the American people a lot of money. But as much as we've done and as much as we've had great successes, and this brings me to my final point before I kick it over to Andrew, this effort will fundamentally always have a limitation unless our colleagues in the House and the Senate are working with us. We don't want the next administration, whoever, God forbid, you're going to have President El Sayed in 3 years. We don't want him to undo all the incredible work that we've been doing when we've been taking out the fraudsters and saving the American people money. And in order to make this really work, we need our colleagues in Congress to really codify some of this stuff, to make sure that it becomes law. And again, this is the sort of thing where, while I see only Republicans surrounding us today.
Okay, so Congress has got to step up, and like we've already addressed this. That's the one where you're like, oh, okay, so
yeah, that's where dreams go to die.
Yeah.
Is hoping that they're going to pass legislation that
like John Thune is going to do anything about this.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get rid of this fraud.
I'm the only one that can count to 50.
I'm the only one that can count to 50. You're all stupid. Even though I'm supposed to be the Senate leader, I'm not going down that rant again.
Yeah, sorry
from yesterday, but. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I love what he said there, that we had to be conservative so that it's likely more than $230 billion. But he had to be conservative because every reporter like, well, can you prove those figures?
Right.
You said it was $272 billion. Our records show that it's only $230 billion.
You're a liar.
Yeah, you're a liar. You're a liar. Nobody believes you.
What else are you lying about?
Yes. Yeah, it's like that stupid fact check that the New York Times did on, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. when he came out and said, hey, look at the ingredients used to make Fruit Loops in Canada.
I'll remember this, yes.
Versus here in the United States. And they did a fact check, and they said, false. The ingredients are the same except for, instead of, like in Canada, that they use carrot juice to color the orange, Fruit Loops. Instead of that, they use monochromaclock waka waka or whatever it is, this long-ass name that nobody even knows what this thing is. And I was like, that's exactly what he's saying. It's an artificial chemical sweetener, colorer, all that stuff versus natural products that are grown from. They're using blueberries, the blue from blueberries, to make the blue Fruit Loops. We don't do that here in the United States because they're the money machine going into the FDA approving all of this stuff. And so the New York Times comes out and fact checks it as a false statement and then says, except for, all the ingredients are the same except for these. And I was just like, did you write that with a straight face? And did your readers of that garbage sit there and just soak it up? That's what the Republicans are facing when they're in front of this gaggle. They're having to watch every little step that they make because all they're doing is looking to jump on any little thing. And I loved it that Robert F. Kennedy slammed the hell out of Dana Bash. I mean, made her look like a fool. I don't think we've talked about that one on the show. Maybe we'll pull it one day, but
we did talk about it.
Maybe you and Eric talked about it.
Yeah, we did talk. I don't remember what day. Was that last week or was that earlier?
Yeah, it was like last week.
Okay,
and so
we did talk.
I think you've got Stephen Miller here. You've got J.D. Vance. You've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You've got these phenomenal representatives of and Scott Bessent, who is not very articulate whatsoever, but he is incredibly intelligent. Secretary of the Treasury. So you've got all these great representatives versus what did we have under Biden? Just think about the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, this fat, ugly troll who stood up there and told us that inflation was transitory and it was going to be gone in a couple of months. And then, a couple of months later, we're at 9% inflation.
Yep.
And things can't rise fast enough. We just had these fools that stand up there and just lie. What about Karine Jean-Pierre and her predecessor, the redheaded chick? What's her name? She's on MS Now.
Circle back
Jen Psaki or something.
Yeah, I always want to
whatever
call
it
her
was.
Paskey because I know she's got the P in it, but no,
Yeah.
it is Psaki. Yeah.
Listen, she was clever, but I remember her bragging about the lower grocery prices leading into the 4th of July. A package of hot dogs had gone down 9 cents. Okay, they figured it up, and the overall savings that had been released was less than $1. It was like 78 cents, and she said, "Well, enjoy the 4th of July weekend and lower prices on your barbecue supplies." You crazy ass woman! Who in the world is you know she's walking back there like, I can't believe I had to say that.
I will just remind you that, I mean, a lot of people, hot dogs are great. I mean, they're just as American as the next guy. But for the 4th of July, I mean, I'm not trying to cook hot dogs. I'm trying to cook brisket. And I will just say brisket prices were high then, and they're still high now. They're too high. Brisket prices are too high.
Sure.
We can lead the revolution based on that one fact. That would unite so many people.
So here's the thing. So my bottom chyron says, trans women are men with mental illnesses, right?
Yes.
So that's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, you're passionate about that.
I can't stand the fact
we
that
got
you're
a whole
trying to
segment,
about
you're
trying to get this dude in a dress with a beard. He says he's a woman. You want me to call him a woman? You're crazy. What's Paul passionate about? Brisket prices are too high. And he's not changing that until it goes down. It's like a crusade.
I'm really not. It is my crusade. We could take. There's no city we couldn't take, with that being our unifying.
Oh yeah.
Is barbecue, the barbecue world and brisket. We're going to get these brisket prices down. My goodness, even chicken thighs. They're expensive now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're still affordable. I mean, but they have gone up in price. Like $1.50 a pound now. It's like over $3.
Well, we got to do our actual. I know this is the taxpayer barbecue, but we need to do an actual barbecue segment again, like we did. This has been months ago, but oh my gosh, the chat was blowing up.
Yeah,
with everybody throwing in their 2 cents about it.
Yeah,
so.
Especially when we were in the afternoon time slot, where people are getting off work or people are thinking about what they're going to do on the weekend. Maybe not as good of a. Maybe people aren't as hungry for rendered fat as in the morning as they are in the afternoon. But yeah, we'll definitely do that. And by the way, anybody out there, any barbecue sponsor, whether you build pits or whether you got rubs or anything like that, talk to us. You can always email us, paulharrellprogram@gmail.com. We'd love to tell the audience about your products, especially if they're good. So here's more. Here's Stephen Miller from this same task force meeting yesterday.
It is, first of all, true, as the Vice President said, as hard as it is to believe, that for most recent history, which in the case of these programs would be in the history of these programs, if you committed conspiratorial explanation, is that when Congress was drafting these statutes, they still lived, to use the phrase used a lot today, in a high-trust society, and it eclipsed their imagination that there would be systemic, widespread, continual lying, fleecing, and organized crime to rip off hundreds of billions of dollars from the American taxpayer, which is what has happened. So there needs to be strict, clear, mandatory minimums. Because by the time you've been convicted, you have already proven to a jury, this is not a civil punishment, this is you've proven to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that you deliberately, willfully, maliciously engage in a scheme to steal from the American taxpayer and from those in genuine need. We've reached a point as a country, until we came along, as hard as it is to believe, where we have federal law enforcement in cities around the country who have to conduct weeks or months-long investigations of daycares where there are no children present at all, to be able to then go into a court of law and say, no kids on Monday, no kids on Tuesday, no kids on Wednesday, no kids on Thursday, right? And this is the real thing. We have federal law enforcement officers who then they have to issue subpoenas and search warrants to get phone records, email records, financial records. And what does it all end up with? You go to a jury in Minnesota and you say the defendant has collected $7 million for a daycare, claiming to be taking care of 100 children for 6 months, and we found one kid attended in that entire time, and he was the nephew.
So good, and so a few words that he used, phrases: organized crime. Okay, because it is highly organized.
Yeah, and even Tinka Nine, can you say RICO? I mean, when you're talking about all of this, it's the very definition of organized crime.
He used the term scheme, and so organized crime scheme, and basically, especially when you look at the immigration aspect of this, there's a clear playbook that opens up a process, to basically make this whole thing a game to them.
Yeah.
And they must have been, and I'm serious, like these people must have been laughing behind closed doors, laughing their butts off at ordinary Americans.
Suckers
that are busting their rear ends to take care of their families, actually working. They must be laughing.
Well, it's the same as those able-bodied people that are on welfare and taking advantage of every type of government program that exists. You're talking Section 8, food stamps, all of this stuff, disability, SSI, all of these things, and they're taking advantage of it. They're completely healthy, they just don't want to work. Mm-hmm. And they're sitting there saying, well, if they're going to give me this money, I'm going to take it. I don't care, right? And so that the fraud knows no bounds on that in that respect. I don't think you could ever root out all of the fraud, but laughing all the way to the bank are these people that are committing big time fraud. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that are committing, like Stephen Miller said, $7 million. And you're seeing these ridiculous verdicts and sentences on these people, and there's really no real accountability for all of this stuff. And I think that there has to be a concerted effort by the administration, but more importantly, there needs to be pressure placed on the judicial system in a certain way to say, you have got to take your ideological bull, you've got to take it out of this and realize that this person took. In some of those cases in California, it was like doctors who took $93 million of fraudulent Medicaid and Medicare payments, like for people that just didn't even exist. And you're just like, how is that even possible? How is that even possible? Paul, I feel like I get a damn cavity search whenever I go to the DMV because I've got to provide 15,000 documents just to renew my license plate. And you're telling me that people are able to commit millions and millions and millions of dollars of fraud? The DMV is the government. This fraud that they're getting from, this is the government. How is this possible?
I don't know. You're exactly right. And you talk about like the real world cost of this. So the chairman of this task force, what's his name again? Andrew, Andrew Ferguson. So Andrew Ferguson, this is what he said, and he provides a real world example that's kind of shocking.
But fraud hurts real people. It hurts all of us by taking our hard-earned money out of our pockets and putting it into the hands of the most reprehensible people in this country. And second, it hurts real people in specific physical ways. The best example I have of this involves skin substitutes. Fraudsters, up until this year, were performing unnecessary surgeries on elderly Americans in hospices and nursing homes because they would then submit those claims to HHS, and HHS was reimbursing those claims to the tune of billions and billions of dollars a year. Fraud doesn't just hurt us all in our pocketbooks, it physically is maiming real Americans, and that's what this is about. It's not about the numbers at the end of the day, it is about protecting ordinary Americans from the worst of us. People commit fraud against.
Let's stop right there and just kind of, can we process that for a second? I mean, taking old people in for unnecessary surgeries just to make the money. I mean, there needs to be special sentencing. I mean, some random person that's gaming the system, the big daycare stuff is highly organized, but if you're a doctor or you're a hospital administrator and you're forcing patients that don't that to me is such a larger breach of trust and has got to be.
It's evil.
Yes,
it's evil. That's a special place in hell for someone that's going to perform an unnecessary operation on anyone, let alone an elderly person or a child.
What are we doing with the same? These are the same. This is the same institution generally that's doing it to kids, calling it healthcare with the transgender stuff, and now look what they're doing to our old people.
Completely agree with you. And what it makes me think of. Let me draw this analogy. It's like you go to the car dealership, or you go to the service station, there, and because you've got a minor problem with your vehicle. And they go in there, oh yeah, you're going to need all this, and you're going to need that, and you're going to need this, and they quote you $1,700 when it was in fact really something that could have been fixed for $200. Okay, because it's all an upsell. They're a business and all of that stuff. So take that and then multiply it times $1 billion. Because when you're talking about your car versus your body, that you're going to have several vehicles throughout our lives. Many vehicles.
Yeah.
We're going to get one of these bodies here on Earth. And you're saying that these people are performing operations on elderly folks just to get the extra money, to get all of this. Like, it's these services, okay? They go in for a cough, they got a little bit of a cold, and they are like, well, we had to run blood work. We had to do this. We had to do that. And all of a sudden, we've got 5 to 7 services, and the bill going to Medicaid is $75,000, and you're like, all they needed were some antibiotics or whatever you give for a cold. I don't know, but anyway, you get my point. They're churching it up, and the reason that they're doing it is because the government's stupid enough to pay it. It's. I've said it yesterday. I don't think these people they're not losing any sleep at night.
Yeah.
The only reason that they might be losing sleep at night is just worry about getting caught. They don't care at all that they're defrauding taxpayers. And I'm going to give you another example. Excuse me. I'll give you another example here. For us to continue to go in this amount of debt, what is the trickle down meaning for all of that? Right? That means that our Federal Reserve is having to pull money and borrow money from continue to buy these bonds, to continue to get all of this money to fund these absolute slush funds.
Yeah, like print. You mean print money?
They're printing this money, right? But they're borrowing, they're selling these bonds and all of this stuff to get this money. Well, that's literally raising the prices for everyone. All of that stuff trickles down when the economy is not doing well. We all suffer for that. And if there's massive amounts of fraud, I can't even imagine, because it's been 1998 since the budget was actually balanced, where we were taking in more money than we were actually spending. It was very short-lived. Give Bill Clinton credit on that. He was able to balance the budget. I don't know that it was all him or a sign of the booming.
Allegedly, he did it on with like some financial sleight of hand with Social Security or something.
Maybe he did that, and it's the same thing as Mom Donnie, who was allegedly balancing the budget.
Kind
there.
of the same deal there,
right?
Yeah,
he borrowed from this, but anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I think the amount of fraud, it affects everybody. I am an independent contractor. I own a business, so there's nobody like withholding taxes from my check. And so I have to physically write the check to the government, and we pay our taxes monthly. Some people pay it yearly, some people pay it quarterly. Anyway, it sucks. It sucks.
That's like the realest.
Yeah.
That's the realest Rob Spencer has ever. And you can tell. I mean, I know that it sucks. I've had to pay taxes as well quarterly, and it does suck. But you can tell the passion in your eyes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you're an employee at a place and you see your check, you see what your check would have been, but they've got all these deductions and all of that stuff, and you see what your actual check is. You can choose not to look at that breakdown and just look at what's written on the actual check. Or better yet, your company has a direct deposit, so you're not really getting a checked stub. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you get the money that you get, and it's after all of these deductions have been taken out. I receive my money. I get it all. Okay? Then I got to give the check back. I think it sucks way worse because I've had it both ways. I was an employee many times.
I've done it both
ways. You kind of glance at your check stub and you're like, oh man, look at all this Social Security. I'm 19 years old. What do I care about that? And now, as we know, Social Security is probably not even going to be there, when we get there. Yep. Anyway, I digress. If I'm writing this check, I wish I had to. Now, it'd piss me off even worse. But the people who believe in tax, pass more taxes. I wish that your payment that they gave you every dime, and then you had to physically write those checks back. But here's what you're doing. You're not just writing federal income tax back. You're writing $27.50 goes to disability. Mm-hmm. $38 goes to food stamps. Mm-hmm. And you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm not on any of this stuff, but I'm paying for it. I guarantee you people would start waking up if you had to individually write those checks to where that crap is actually going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so about, 15 years ago when I was first on radio, I actually had an office out of another business that was, essentially subsidizing, the beginnings of my radio show. And so there was a lot of employees in and out, and I got to be friends with a lot of people that were doing not what I was doing. They were actually working what I would call real jobs. Mm-hmm. And the company hired a young black kid out of high school.
Okay.
Right. Start working, and it was really, really good to see. He came from a less than ideal background.
Okay.
But he really kind of was, just really kind of inspired by learning how to be a good worker, learning skills, and all that other stuff. And anyway, so at one point he got his check. I became friends with him because I kind of had an office where people could just kind of pop in and talk. And he popped in and started talking about his check. And he was like, what is all, he would ask me questions that he wouldn't ask maybe some of the other guys that were older than me. And he was like, what is all this stuff here? And I'm like, I was like, well, those friends that you were talking about that are no good, that are mean to you and that don't work and just get checks from the government? He was like, yeah. I was like, is this all this money here that's coming out is basically going to them.
Yeah.
And there was about a 30-second, just contemplating, like when you like that meme where like all of like you got clocks going in the background, and it's kind of like, foggy and phasing in and out. And you could literally see the wheels turning in his head where he was just like, oh, okay. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it now. That's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And because, he knows all of his friends are able-bodied people choosing to live in this generational welfare state, So it was very interesting. I've seen it firsthand as well. Just need somebody to point it out. But to your point, if they had it line itemized or itemized by line, it would be a lot better for us.
Yeah. A clarification. I want to say I'm not talking about these people that legitimately cannot work. My mother,
no, of course not.
My mother had 7 back surgeries in 3 years. I don't know why they kept cutting her open, but it just destroyed her back. She can't sit for very long. She can't stand for very long. She literally cannot find rest, and. So her work. Of course, she's in her 60s now and all that stuff. But so like her working, it just not really feasible. But there's so many people that have disability, and they're like, well, I'm disability, and they're 100% capable of working.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we're talking about. So I wanted to clarify that.
I want to add on that. I think early on in my days, as somebody who's also a recovering libertarian in a lot of ways, I think early on in my political life, covering this. Looks like we have breaking news here. I'm going to get to you in just a minute. Anthony Fauci has been found in contempt.
Held in contempt. I'd like to know what the vote is. I'm assuming that no Democrats voted for that.
Matter of fact, let me just finish my point. We'll go to break and then we'll come back. But my point is I used to be really against the whole person sitting at home with doing the welfare thing, and I still am. But I'm not even really willing to have that conversation until we, get all illegals, like build the wall. Yeah, continue to secure the border, deport who we got to deport, because we got illegals that are on these. It's like it's gotten so out of hand that now the conversation is, well, can we just get welfare for only Americans? And then maybe once we get it out of the illegals and quit being subverted that way, then maybe we can have a discussion about,
Yeah.
Okay, like let's we are creating an incentive not to work in some cases. Can we at least acknowledge that and figure
Right.
something out?
Well,
So-
during the break, we'll see if we can find a clip. But there's an incredible exchange in Congress here recently about whether illegals can get Medicaid or whatever. So we can do all that. Hey, real quickly, apparently no Democrats voted for that. We'll get into that after the break. And then the other thing is, please share the show. Please share this channel, LFA. Share it on all of your platforms. X. Share it wherever you want to share it. It'd be great. We'd love more exposure for the channel and for the Paul Harrell program.
Yeah, and just if you're just joining us, breaking news: Anthony Fauci has been found in contempt. And this was the only way to even glance at accountability. You heard Rand Paul say it last week. We think we're going to move in this direction because he has immunity. He's been given given a pardon. Wasn't granted immunity, but given a pardon, and he shouldn't have been able to take the fifth. So now he's impeding an investigation of Congress, and they've now voted to hold him in contempt. We're going to break that down, do a little bit of research here during the break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Paul Harrell program. Thank you so much for watching. Hope everybody's having a very fun, energetic, fully caffeinated morning. We'll be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
Why is Red Vive different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vive devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98, Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream Bed Sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you, what a concept, now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
The
So welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being with us, broadcasting from the state of Arkansas here on Live from America TV, Paul Harrell program, YouTube. Share the show wherever you're watching. Get it out there, specifically if you're watching over on LFA TV Rumble. Sorry, let me get this out of here. Anthony Fauci has been found in contempt of Congress. Here's the latest. Nick Sorter, Rand Paul Senate Homeland Security Committee has voted to hold Dr. Fauci in contempt of Congress. This is a little bit of what it sounded like. Let's take a listen.
Seeing no other motions, the question is on reporting of an original resolution regarding contempt of Congress. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Johnson.
Yes.
Senator Langford.
Aye.
Senator Scott.
Yes.
Senator Hawley.
Aye.
Senator Moreno.
On behalf of the millions of people harmed by Anthony Fauci, resoundingly yes.
Senator Ernst. Aye. Senator Moody. Aye. Senator Peters.
No.
Senator Hassan.
No.
Senator Blumenthal.
No.
Senator Fetterman.
Fetterman, no.
Senator Kim. No. Senator Gallego.
No by proxy.
Senator Slotkin.
No by proxy.
Senator Paul.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, on the vote of those present, the yeas are 8, the nays are 5. On the vote by proxy, and for the record only, the yeas are 0, the nays are 2. On this vote, the yeas are 8, the nays are 5, and the motion is agreed.
Seeing no.
All right, so explain that, Rob.
Yeah, so that was a couple of days ago. That one was the to get it out of committee. That one was
Really?
to get
I mean,
it out.
it literally was posted, at 8:13 this morning, today. Here's another one.
I've already seen that. I don't know.
Is this the same one? Let's see this one. Is this the same clip here?
Seeing no other motions, the question is on reporting of an original resolution regarding contempt of Congress. The clerk
Okay,
will
so
call
I guess
the roll.
this did
Senator
just
Johnson.
happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Senator Langford.
Aye.
I thought I saw
Well,
this
in the
vote two days ago.
Yeah, I didn't,
don't know.
but I mean, I get it.
Well, forgive me, guys, but regardless, I'm glad.
Yeah, this is a big deal. So 8-5, and you had Fetterman there voting with his party, which was interesting.
Yeah.
You kind of wondered though. You thought maybe he's going to come around. I mean, he even had some critical things to say of Fauci when he got to question him last week. So that kind of brings us to, I mean, what was it? Was that Moreno who said on behalf of the millions, or whoever that was, on behalf of the millions of people what
harmed.
you did,
Yeah.
harmed? Yeah, I mean, it's not just harm, though. I mean, I guess murder is harm. Yeah, so I guess that would fall under the umbrella. I mean, you're talking about people that have lost their lives, people that have extreme problems because of the shots, and then you think about the suppression, the censorship, well, let's just go to Stephen A. Smith. I think this is a good time to go to Stephen A. Smith. He's been in the news recently because he apologized to Kyrie Irving about what he said about him being selfish, not taking the shot, the NBA basketball player. He apologized to Aaron Rodgers. He then is in the news. Yesterday we played his part on the program where he was going off on trans women and men and women's sports and trying to protect that and slamming the WNBA. And now here he is sharing a testimony, his personal testimony, that he got the shots, still got COVID. Remember when we weren't supposed to be, you get the shot, you're not going to get COVID, and then we found out they lied about that. He got the shots, still got COVID, and almost died until the doctors recommended one drug that saved his life. He credits with saving his life.
Right. He's not going to name that drug specifically because we all know. We all know.
All right, here it is. Listen to this.
Do I think that he should be embarrassed for the self-adulation that he engaged in? You damn right I do. Because some of the things that he was telling us to do was inconsistent with science, but he was telling us it was science that led to him making the decisions that he made. Masking, 6 feet distancing, the closing of businesses, forcing businesses to push those mandates upon people like me and others. Because I took the vaccine, and I took a booster, and I wore a mask. And we were told, hey, you ain't going to get COVID if you do that. And I got COVID. And damn it, it almost killed me. Going into 2022, I'm in the hospital 90 minutes before the ball is about to drop. And the doctor says, we've been at this for 3+ weeks. You got double pneumonia. You look really bad. If this antibiotic and this steroid does not work, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, we're going to have to call your family. It looks that bad, but we should know in 3 hours. And through the grace of God, 3 hours
All right,
later,
well, so
I
it's
felt
not
better after
ivermectin.
they
He
gave
says
me
it's antibiotic and steroid.
that steroid and that antibiotic. But those were the longest 3 hours of my life because I thought it was over.
Listen,
And I remember I had done exactly what Dr. Anthony Fauci was imploring us all to do.
Yeah, and you almost died because of it.
I completely think he is talking about ivermectin here.
You think so?
I think so. I think he just
that's a good take.
I think he can't say it. I think he, he didn't want to detract from what he was trying to say. And if you throw that ivermectin out there, oh, that's horse tranquilizers, or horse whatever it is, dewormers. So I think that's what but regardless, it wasn't the shot. And that's his point. The shot did not save him. He damn near died. And on a much less serious note, what about all of the families that were elderly folks that were completely cut off from their families and died alone? What about the children that were absolutely stunted in their educational growth because they were basically out of school in some of these blue states for damn near 2 years? And you want to sit here and tell us, you want to sit here and just say, well, that's what the science said. Bull, you knew it. There's emails from Dr. Anthony Fauci saying that the stuff that he's talking about is not going to work. And he's not going to say it so plainly as that, but that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
The damn box of the masks said, will not protect against the coronavirus. And they're saying, wear this mask. They're saying, stand 6 feet away. COVID can't get you if you follow these stupid-ass arrows in the grocery store. COVID can't get you. This woman had a freaking hula hoop around her that was like 6 feet around, and she's walking around. If somebody got too close to the hula hoop, there was a video of her in a grocery store. She's wearing 15 masks. She looks like a freaking RoboCop because she's got so much gear on. And I'm like, damn it, woman, turn off MS Now. Turn off CNN. They have scared the crap out of you. Hell, we're still seeing it in 2026. People driving alone in their car
wearing a
with
mask.
a face mask on. What are you trying to protect yourself from?
And those
your own
people,
self?
And I think a lot of those people still believe the propaganda that Anthony Fauci is the standard of truth and science in our country.
I guarantee you that X, the liberal side of X, if it still kind of exists, is blowing up. Thank you, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Yeah.
You stand strong. You just hang in there, Anthony.
You're being persecuted.
This is awful. You just better just hang in there. We're with you, Dr. Fauci. Thank you so much for everything you did. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. What's the liberal Twitter? What the hell is it called? Like blue sky. Blue fish, blue dicks. I don't know. But regardless, whatever it is, it's the stupidest thing because it's like you go over there and if you are a conservative and you say anything pro-Trump, you immediately get banned.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wait a minute. You're sitting here saying that X is this it's just a conservative fishbowl. It's a conservative, sounding board. And you're just like, okay, what the hell do you call blue dicks over there? Whatever it is. It's 100% this liberal echo chamber, and you're just sitting there praying to Saint Fauci. Rand Paul, you can like or dislike Rand Paul. There's some things I agree with him on. Most things I agree with him. There's some things I disagree with him on. But he has been he's been pounding this drum against Fauci from the very beginning. And today was only possible because of Rand Paul. Ironically enough, it's pretty cool that, Joe Biden's, if it all shakes out like this, Joe Biden's, preemptive pardon may have backfired on Fauci because there are lots of legal experts or been all over the internet and all over network television saying you can't plead the fifth out of embarrassment. You can't you can only plead the fifth if you are about to admit to a crime, and you cannot do that if you've already been pardoned for that crime. It's kind of like a double jeopardy situation. Now, I'm not an attorney. I don't know if all of that's true, but I can tell you that there are a lot of people's families that were torn apart during COVID, that lost loved ones during COVID. My father died in October of 2020. Okay, you want to talk about the ridiculousness of? I probably couldn't talk about this a few years ago, but I can now. The ridiculousness of my father laying there, deceased. He's gone. He's not on this earth anymore. And they got a damn mask on his face, Paul. They had a mask on my dead father. I will never forgive Dr. Anthony Fauci for the ridiculous mind-wrought virus
dehumanizing
that he put them through. You have family members at a funeral, and thank goodness we're in Arkansas and they weren't making us sit 6 feet apart at our own. I mean, like you want to hug your family, And so, I'm just one story out of millions and billions. I mean, it's probably billions at this point because it was global. And so I love that something happened to him today, and I hope that it goes further and he ends up behind bars.
Well, I'll say this, the fact is, if the legal scholars are right, and there's no reason to take the fifth, you can't take the fifth if you've been pardoned. He's there literally covering up the lie, and out of embarrassment, but also out of the other people that haven't received a pardon, that were co-conspirators with Anthony Fauci.
Yeah. He's
saying, you know what? I'll face the contempt of Congress possibility. That only is a maximum of 1 year in jail. I think that's what a contempt of Congress prosecution or guilty verdict is going to result. Only 1 year in jail, and I'll just face that to cover up and keep the crimes against humanity from ever being brought to light in a court of law. At least we know that. Folks, that's a wrap for hour one of the Paul Harrell program. We've got hour two coming up here next, but we're going to throw it to Sean Farish, who is going to be taking over the broadcast on the live stream LFA TV. So we really appreciate it, folks. Thanks so much for being with us. Reminder that we're powered here at the Paul Harrell program by the Healing Veterans Project. And so go to healingveteransproject.us. And for those of you on LFA, we'll see you this afternoon.
The Paul Harrell program.
This is hour number 2 of the Paul Harrell program. Thank you so much for being with us today. We can't do the show without you. Broadcasting live from the state of Arkansas. Man, we're just talking about Anthony Fauci, and that is absolutely nuts, Rob. I didn't realize that about your dad. I mean, I knew your dad was listed as a COVID death when I don't think he was.
No,
right?
He had a massive heart attack. My dad had a massive heart attack, and at 57,
but putting a mask on your father after he's deceased is so ridiculous. I mean, it's so dehumanizing and gross.
Yeah, and the funeral director, of course, he's trying to follow guidelines. I mean, I get it. Like, you don't want your business shut down by the health department, but he's asked me, because I was basically in charge, if I would ask my 40-something-year-old sister not to touch his face. Do not touch your father's face, And you're like, this is the last time that we're going to see him on this earth, or at least his body. Can't touch his face because you might get COVID. It was so incredibly dehumanizing as you can't stand there and properly grieve. And it just to give you a little bit more backstory on this, my father and his mother died within 4 days of each other.
Oh, wow.
Now, she probably legitimately was a COVID death, but honestly, a strong cold would have killed her because she was a smoker for 50 years, and she had quit smoking, but she was in her 70s at this point, and she had pneumonia and all of this stuff. She was in ICU. She couldn't breathe, could not breathe. And, of course, we could not go see her at the hospital. The hospitals were basically shut down for visitors. It was just a crazy, crazy time. And so we had planned my father's funeral for a Monday, and we were a couple of days out. And then my grandmother passed away, and so my aunt, who was in charge of my grandmother's funeral, I was in charge of my father's funeral. She called me and said, "Hey, Rob, this is basically the same people that are going to be at both funerals. Do you want to push your dad's back a day and just have them together?" And that was more than appropriate for us. So we're over the caskets of my grandmother and my father, and my father, who very much died unexpectedly at 57 of a heart attack. We're standing there, and this guy's walking up to us saying, "Please don't touch their faces," you know. And he's got a mask on. It was insanity, and that was happening here in Arkansas.
Yeah,
you know. So I know it was really, really bad. All the restaurants. What about people that had restaurants for 30 years, whose entire livelihood was destroyed because they weren't even allowed to do outdoor seating. Paul, weren't even allowed to do outdoor seating, even if they put the tables 6 feet apart. Weren't allowed to do it. Especially in California. But guess what was open? Gavin Newsom's winery. You could walk through there. Hey, you can't go to church, but you can sure as hell go protest George Floyd.
Yeah.
It was lunacy. And, you know, I feel a little bit of vindication today that, you know,
Anthony Fauci's been held in contempt.
That's right.
I mean, you know, but that's not near, you know, up to 1 year in jail, I think is what he can face. This is just.
Yeah.
Look, they got to do something. I get it. If the DOJ's not going to go after the auto pin scandal and challenge the constitutionality of these pardons, or even the legality of pardoning somebody for something they haven't even been charged with. The same thing with Hunter Biden. You were pardoned for how many years, a decade or more of crimes that you may have committed but were never even charged with. I don't even think that's been litigated properly. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I don't know. So this is just kind of a glance in the right direction, but it looks like that this is all they can do. And will a judge even allow Anthony Fauci to even go to jail for 1 year at 85 years old over contempt of Congress?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't really know. But.
Yeah, well, you know, I think this can go directly to the Department of Justice now. And so maybe by the time our LFA audience is watching this later, we've got some clarity on what's going to happen. Maybe there's been chances for some of these. I
don't think the DOJ will do anything. I'm going to go ahead and say my prediction is the DOJ won't do anything.
Is that because you're black-pilled, or do you just legitimately think that might be the case?
I really don't think. I believe that obviously you guys know this, that the intel oligarchy has not been brought to heel under Trump 2.0. I think there's still plenty of career communists at the DOJ, FBI, and in the intel agencies. I think that Fauci, I think this narrative is very important to them. That they've got to keep it alive. They've got to keep it as much as they can on the fringe, although it is breaking through, meaning it's gotten on ESPN now.
Sure.
You know, right-wing talking points are getting the truth is getting on ESPN now, right, via Stephen A. Smith. So I don't know, but this narrative is very precious to them, and they will. I just don't think they'll do anything, and I will happily eat crow. I
know. I'm curious if this has ever happened before. Someone who's received a presidential pardon being asked to testify in front of Congress.
Oh, that's a good question.
Or if this is just a novel thing. If this is a novel thing, then that's what his attorneys are going to argue, is that, there's no precedent for this. You know, the Supreme Court needs to decide whether somebody who has a presidential pardon can be held in contempt for not answering questions after the fact.
Yeah.
It seems logical to me, but again, I'm not a legal expert, so I don't really know. But I would imagine that that's what Fauci's attorneys are going to argue. They're going to try to tie this thing up, in court and do everything they can. And, I think some of the Fauci lovers and thinks he's a saint. They're going to come out of the hills, probably help him pay for all this stuff, but he may not need to, with his wife being on the board at Pfizer,
Yeah.
They
got money. He's got money. He's been the highest paid government official for probably the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's on paper makes more than the president of the United States, but that's the legal stuff that we can see.
Right.
How many people have been padding that man's pocket.
Yeah,
so
he's a wealthy man. For sure.
Again, Paul, I don't know if there's anything that's going to happen, but I'll just say this: if the Department of Justice does not pursue it, then that tells us everything that we need to know. And we're already feeling like we kind of know it.
The cover-up must continue
Yes.
because there's too many people that did this intentionally.
That's right. The accountability is all smoke and mirrors. That will never happen. Mm-hmm. And if you can't get someone who has a pardon and says, I don't want to answer questions about the time period of which I have received a pardon, I'm not going to answer questions under my Fifth Amendment rights not to incriminate myself. If that can't be contempt, if that can't be charged, then Steve Bannon needs to get a big, huge settlement because he went to prison because he didn't even he just didn't show up.
And Peter Navarro.
Yeah, and he spent quite a bit of time, I think, right? A lot more than the couple of months that Bannon.
Yeah,
but you think about a couple of months, Paul. That's a long time. Mm-hmm. A couple of months, especially. I mean, Steve Bannon's not getting any younger, So anyway. I digress on all this stuff. I'm just saying I'm really happy that we've got some accountability. I hope that it's just the start, but I'm like you in a little bit. I have my doubts.
I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. This is the website, Restoring the Lives of Those Who Served. Healing Veterans Project, we deploy medical-grade photobiomodulation light therapy red light panels directly into the homes of U.S. veterans at absolutely no cost to them. Your support funds essential healing units not covered by insurance, providing a path to wellness for those who have given the most. So at Healing Veterans Project, if you want to donate, we're on a mission to help our veterans. Scan the QR code on your screen, and it's going to take you to the donation page where you can donate one time, monthly, annually, quarterly, whatever you want. I would encourage you guys to donate monthly, even if it's just $1 a month, and share this with your friends. And if you own a business, we want to talk to you. Email me, paul@healingveteransproject.us. That's paul@healingveteransproject.us. I want to talk to you if you own a business, a retail business, specifically, because we would love to set up a point-of-sale transaction opportunity for your customers to donate $1, $5, $10 to Healing Veterans Project with every purchase that they make. And this is great. What business doesn't want to say that they're helping veterans heal? And specifically, non-pharmaceutically, we're not getting veterans hooked on opioids. We're getting them red light panels that can be a substitute for those pills that don't really fix the problem, but they just, in a lot of cases, have ruined veterans' lives. Healing Veterans Project, I'm pleased to partner with them, and I hope you would partner with them as well as we move into our next segment, which is going to be an update. It is time for a segment that we like to call Red Tape Tyrants. All right, for this edition of Red Tape Tyrants, we go back to a story from yesterday about John Thune, the SAVE Act. To pass the SAVE Act, to not pass the SAVE Act, that is the question. We've got Mike Lee giving us what I would describe as hopium, which is kind of addictive.
Sure.
Mike Lee now says that there may be a chance, like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber.
You're telling me there's a chance? Like 1 out of 100? No, more like 1 out of 1,000,000. So you're telling me there's a chance. Oh,
that's the way I feel about this.
I could quote that whole movie.
But let's take a listen. This was posted yesterday.
I just came from a very productive meeting with Senate Republicans, and the conversation has shifted in a very favorable direction. We're talking now much more about how best to do this. Not whether to stay and work on the Save America Act, but what procedural vehicle to use in order to get this thing done. So, look, I always, this is a step-by-step process. I don't want to proclaim victory, but the conversation has moved in a favorable direction. I want to thank Senate Majority Leader John Thune and our whip, John Barrasso, for leading a very productive discussion today.
So those two realities are there. Now, is there somewhere in here with budget reconciliation that we can do pieces of the Save America Act, or at least in a fiscal way deal with funding for some of those things? Maybe, and we'll see what the draft will bear on that. We're having conversations.
Let's take a moment. Like, why does Senator Langford look like like a patient? Like he looks like he's sick.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've thought this multiple times. He looks like a person who died a week ago and didn't get the memo.
Yeah. Yet he's got this dyed hair going on. You know, he's clearly dyeing his hair and his eyebrows, I think. But
he looks like a goober tool.
I don't know. He just seems like he's had the life sucked out of him.
Yeah.
That's all. And maybe that's what the DC does. Maybe that's what actually happens in Mordor. Start to look like,
yeah,
an orc.
It could be. Could be.
But anyway, the hopium here, this is why it's the segment Red Tape Tyrants. I just feel like we're going to still get excuses and process and all this other stuff, and our politicians are now essentially functioning as bureaucrats, and that's not what we voted for. And so, but he's saying we've got productive discussions, but it is August, and they may not go in recess. So what? It is August. The elections are in November. How in the world would any of this actually be implemented in time, taking into consideration liberal judges' proclivities to issue nationwide injunctions? I don't see it happening. I think we're basically talking about nonsense at this point. But I hope I'm wrong, and I'll eat crow all day long, gladly.
Well, I'll say. If it's not something that is signed into law, an executive order is never going to hold up, which is why Trump's, there's no one's even really talking about that. So it's got to be a law. It's got to be a law that Congress passes somehow. And if it's in budget reconciliation, that means it's going to come up again. I don't know all the ins and outs of all of that stuff. I did hear a great, phenomenal breakdown. As a liberal saying, hey, if you're requiring a document to vote, but the document that you're requiring in itself is not free, then that is in effect a poll tax. And of course, there's a lot of Democrats that believe that. There's a lot of people on the left that absolutely believes it's a poll tax. But the Supreme Court has already addressed this. They already addressed driver's licenses for voting in the 2005, 2006. There was a Supreme Court case, and I forget the name of it, but basically what it said is that if it's minimal inconvenience, it's not a poll tax. It's not that you are charging them to vote. You are requiring a document, and it's kind of like this. All right, well, am I required to buy some clothes if I'm going to vote in person? Am I required to buy some clothes or have some clothes that I have paid for? And am I required to do that, or can I go vote naked? Okay, can I walk into the voting booth naked, or are you going to require?
That's a good point. Yeah,
you're going to require that I have some clothing,
sir. We live in a society.
Yeah. Listen, I spend a lot of time in the gym, but I'm 46. You don't want to see this naked, okay?
Yeah.
And I sure as heck don't want to be going up in here, it's a minor inconvenience to have to wear clothes to go. And so
Crawford versus Marion County Election Board 2008, the Supreme Court upheld Indiana's voter photo ID law, ruling the general inconvenience of getting an ID does not count as a heavy burden on voting or act as an unconstitutional poll tax. Justice John Paul Stevens wrote that for most voters, the minor trouble of traveling to an office, showing papers, and taking a photo is a normal part of voting. So if you want to vote, you got to first you got to go register.
Yes.
I mean, I know that's free to register to vote, but still.
You got to do that, and you can get an ID card for free.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, in most states, you can get an ID card, and an ID card may not be, but as it currently stands, an ID card is free, and it's acceptable ID in these states that require some photo identification. They bring up the marriage licenses. They bring up, a birth certificate, being able to prove why your last name is not the same as what you were born. All of that stuff. I have 3 adopted children. I'd be curious to know if there was ever coming back, but their birth certificates actually were changed to our name, so it looks like we were their birth parents. Now our children know they're adopted. So, anywho, but they keep saying that it's unconstitutional to require them to have these documents. And the Supreme Court has already settled this, okay? Now, so you could say, well, they didn't, but the Supreme Court didn't weigh in on birth certificates. They didn't weigh in on marriage licenses for women, all of this stuff. Okay, cool. If the Save America Act had enough funding to guarantee it nationwide, where all of those documents were 100% free. So the health department, you can go to the health department and you can get this birth certificate. Because, I don't know, do you still have your birth certificate?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have yes.
I have mine because I used to have a CDL, or I still do have a CDL, but it's not active. Commercial driver's license, you have to, you have to go through some extra checks and balances with all of that stuff. And I think I had to have it for my real ID. I can't remember. So I have the real ID. Anyway, if those things were made free, would you be in favor of it then? Ask a Dem that. Ask a Democrat if every bit of it was free. Okay? Every bit of it. Would you be in favor of requiring it then? No. So then you're disingenuous.
Yeah.
You're full of trash right now
Yeah.
because you're not going to agree with it regardless. You're just using this BS over here to say, oh, well, that's why. That's why, because it's going to disenfranchise people, And the older millennial had a phenomenal take to this. If you don't follow him on TikTok, he's a great follow. He's on X. His name's Joe Redden, but he goes by the older millennial. Anywho, he was talking about the Democrat argument. Well, it's only 400 people in New Jersey that were voted. I mean, I know 6,000 people were registered that were illegals, but only 400 of them voted. Okay, that means 400 people's votes, legal voters, were completely discounted. Completely discounted. That means their vote did not count. No matter which way the person, the 400 voted, which we know which way they voted. Let's be honest. We know which way that 400 voted. But no matter which way the 400 voted versus the other 400, doesn't matter.
They canceled their vote.
You canceled somebody's vote because you say, well, but what if they both voted Democrat? Okay, then the 400 might be an evolving number, right? It might be a changing number depending on what the votes are. But you get what I'm saying. 400 legal citizens had their vote discounted by someone who did not have the legal right to vote. And this has happened in a blue state. That is just what they're admitting to, Paul. That's just what they found. And that's only one of our 50 states.
Yeah, and it just also assumes they didn't go back and edit to make things look better, cover up.
Sure.
This whole thing is about, the cover up is always worse than the crime. So
yeah, and they're not going to come out and admit that. I can't believe that they admitted that. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that there were 6,000 people that were registered, but none of them voted. Mm-hmm. Like that's the answer that I would expect, or not even to hear about the 6,000. So anyway, I've gone on a long rant about this stuff. It's absolutely 100% ridiculous that you say that you can go to a poll and say there's a video around of a guy that went in and said his name is Marshall Mathers. Does that sound familiar, Marshall Mathers?
Isn't he a sports person?
No, Paul. See,
Paul
is a politics guy.
That is Eminem.
That
is
the white rapper
Slim
Eminem.
Shady.
Slim Shady. His real name is Marshall Mathers, which M and M. Right. But anyway, it's spelled out. So he goes in. And he gives Marshall Mathers' birth date, which is publicly available information. Get his birth date, and he goes and says, this guy's like in his 20s, and Eminem is over 50. Mm-hmm. So I think he was born in like 1972, something like that. So he's over 50. Anyway, he goes in there, and he says he's Marshall Mathers, and he gives his birth date, no driver's license, nothing, and they're about to give him a ballot. They're about to you're like, well, here's your ballot. And he goes, oh, hold on, I've got a call. And he leaves. And he does that so he doesn't commit a crime, right? Because he's like, if I take this ballot, you're not going to be able to do that. So anyway, so that happened, and it was just a dude saying he was Eminem, the famous rapper. Can you imagine if you're going in there with a nobody name?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you're going in there and you're talking to somebody who actually knows who Marshall Mathers is? Well, actually, they answer. They go, oh, are you related to the other Marshall Mathers? He's like, no, I get that all the time, all this stuff. Even though he's in Detroit. He's in Detroit.
You raise an interesting point as I'm sitting here thinking about this. Excuse me. We look at the Republicans that we know are not for the SAVE Act.
Okay.
Who are Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, right? Or those are the ones we know of.
Sure,
I actually believe that there are people that claim they want it but actually don't want it, and they're against it. They just know that it's, they've got these other people that can take the public face. But behind closed doors, there's a lot more Republicans that are actually against this. And I know this sounds like, okay, well, yeah, duh, Paul, this isn't like some sort of like aha moment, but I think it's appropriate for us to frame these people. And I'm going to throw John Thune in there as well because he's the leader. It all comes back on him. They actually want voter fraud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, that is not uncharitable to me at this point. At this point, members of the Republican Party in the Senate are for rigging elections and voter fraud, and then with what Tulsi Gabbard revealed in her documents via Bill Pulte is they want our machines left vulnerable to hackers, all of that stuff. They're for it. They are for it.
It doesn't matter.
And we need to really seriously think about what that means, and that's how we should characterize it as far as I'm concerned.
Doesn't matter how many votes you get. It matters who counts the votes.
Yes.
Whether it's digitally through computer hacking or whether it's manually through all the fraud that we have seen, people putting up the stuff. You're all you're doing is standing there watching them count votes.
Hi, I'm Mr. Algorithm, and
Yes.
I will be counting the election results tonight.
Yes, there we go. And you're going to get all these mail-in ballots, and they're all going to be sequentially numbered, and they're going to be unfolded, and they're all going to be filled out for Biden. And this dude can't even raise enough money to have a presidential library, but apparently he was the most popular president in history with 81 million votes. If you believe that, I don't think you're able to have a rational, intelligent conversation with anybody who lives in the real world.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. All right, moving on now. We had this planned for the first hour, but we got that news about Anthony Fauci being voted in contempt of Congress out of Rand Paul's Homeland Security Committee. We're going to get back in. So J.D. Vance really being active on X in the last few days. Also sat down with Laura Ingraham over on Fox News, and this is one of the highlights.
This is a sticking point with young voters. The war, the conflict with Iran. Wait.
This is a sticking point. I'm sorry. This is a sticking point with young voters. The war, the conflict with Iran. Okay. So I think that's a great time for our latest news segment.
Oh, yeah. We've come up with so many new segments that we forgot to put this in there.
I forgot to put this in there. Now it's time for Middle East fatigue. Like sands through the hourglass.
I haven't seen this graphic. I'm waiting
on it. Are the days of our lives.
I'm waiting on it to pop up.
So are the days of our wars.
Oh, this is great. This is a great one. So I'm on a delay here when I'm watching.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah, man.
The sandstorm and the bombs dropping.
I'm proud of you for these, Paul.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, Rob. This was your idea. All right, so here is J.D. Vance. Let's start at the top.
This is a sticking point with young voters. The war, the conflict with Iran. We keep hearing there's progress, then 2 days later there's no progress, and more problems in the
What a
in
perfect
the strait.
segment.
What can you tell the American people? I know you don't want to get ahead of the president or the talks.
Sure.
But you were the face of the talks, and a lot of the pre-Trump Bush-era Republicans are coming after you, saying you own it now, J.D. Vance. So to that you say?
Well, first of all, if they want to make me own the effort to try to bring this war to a successful conclusion, I'm happy to let them make me own it. I am absolutely trying to do that. But to your point, that sometimes requires one step forward, two steps back, then three steps forward and one step back. I can certainly understand the American people are maybe looking at this and they say, well, it seems like we're making progress and then it seems like we're not. Well, the reality, Laura, is that number one, the Iranians are extraordinarily difficult people. Number two, they have a fractured system. So there are people within their system who want the war to be over. There are also people within their system who are crazy radicals who want the war to continue. Our job is to navigate through that and get the best outcome for the American people, but for the President of the United States as well. And I do think that where we will ultimately land, it's going to be messy and it's going to take some time to get there. Where we will ultimately land, as you see, oil, I think, was at $79 today. Those oil prices are going to come down and stay down. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and the United States will be in a stronger position. But we're kind of in the middle of the game, and I think people are trying to prejudge exactly how this is going to go. I can tell you with confidence it's going to go in a place that is good for the United States of America, but we're going to use all the tools that we have, military, economic, diplomatic, to make sure we bring this thing to the right resolution.
They're trying to drive a wedge between you and Trump. It's clear to me. I mean, it's clear to all of us who kind of were there and they're jockeying in 2015,
Yes.
The Jeb Bush. And I know the Jeb has a good relationship with the president now, and that's great to hear. But is there any daylight between you and the president on this?
No, look, the president and I, first of all, he makes the decisions, and we all try to implement the decisions in accordance with the president's wishes. So the president runs this administration. He is the very top of the administration. He makes orders. We, of course, have debates and conversations about what exactly we should do. But when the president of the United States makes a decision, we are unified in this administration in carrying out that mission. What I do think is interesting is that you have people who will attack what the president of the United States has said, but they don't want to use his name because they know that the president of the United States is too big a fish for them. So they'll come after me or they'll come after somebody else in the administration. That's my job, Laura. And if the worst thing that happens over the next couple of years is that I take some flack for the president in order to make his administration more successful, I think he'll be happy about that.
Have you been?
All right. It's good to address. First of all, I think it is noteworthy that Laura Ingraham is stating a fact that this war is unpopular with young people that voted for President Trump and J.D. Vance in 2024.
Yeah.
Kudos for admitting what is obviously true. And it's good that, I think J.D. Vance addresses that. As you said in the first hour, J.D. Vance is potentially can be very effective in the next few months for the Republicans and for the midterms because of his stances here. It's no secret that according to the reporting, he's been against this war and yet keeps a lot of those but that's all behind closed doors talk. But then when it's time to move forward, you move forward and you try to execute your boss's agenda as best you can, even if he doesn't take your counsel or whatever. And so here's J.D. Vance. I think you're going to see a lot more of him. I think that's one of the strategies here from the GOP.
Well, and that I think we started the show talking about that and how J.D. Vance is a good, articulate sort of representative of this administration, and we want to see more of him. We want to continue to see more of Rubio. I again saw the speech that Rubio gave about the anarchists, the anti-fascists as they call themselves, the communists, and how they destroy things because that other better men have built. It was just an incredible speech that we need to play on the show someday. But anyway, I want to see more of J.D. Vance talking about this, but it doesn't change what we're dealing with here, and that is that it's an extremely volatile situation that needs to be over yesterday, and now they're coming out and saying that allegedly, a deal to open the strait is imminent, that both Iran and the United States have signaled that, they're going to open it up with no tolls, no restrictions, all of that stuff. Because right now, I guess the way they say it, it's only the southern route of the strait is open, and too much oil goes through there for the rest of the rest of the globe for it to not be fully open and the passage through there. And so anyway, I hope that comes.
There's also reporting out there, and President Trump is pushing back on that on Truth Social. There's reporting out there that there was a meeting where it was revealed that, hey, look, we don't really have the missile capacity to keep doing this at the level that we're doing. We're going to be vulnerable. We've expended a ton of our military arsenal when it comes to being able to fire interceptors at Iran, and then of course the ones that we fired in offensive attacks. So there's a defensive aspect to it. There's an offensive aspect to it, and there's reporting out there suggesting that President Trump was angry at Pete Hegseth or because he didn't know. Anyway, they're pushing back on that, but I do think there is some truth to the fact that our missile capability has been depleted, and the types of missiles that we are using can take years to make.
Yeah,
and so this is not so. So we do have a problem here in terms of. And there were people that said this at the beginning as well. I mean, there were those out there saying, "Look, I mean, yeah, we can get involved, we can decimate Iran, but to a point, you've got to balance that with their response and basically running our stockpiles dry." So President Trump pushing back on that today strongly, or at least the report saying we've got the best munitions in the world. And everything's great, but
I think that started with Ukraine. We were sending so much stuff
exactly.
over there.
This is not just protecting Israel and our Gulf bases, which a lot of our Gulf bases have taken a lot of damage. By the way, it's also constantly sending more and more money and arms to Ukraine. And then you have to also think about what we talked about last week. Strangely enough, Laura Loomer going over there trying to make support for the Ukraine war popular among Trump voters, which I don't think is going to I don't think that's a successful play. I was against funding a proxy war against Russia in Ukraine, just like I'm against foreign entanglements in the Middle East. And but again, I know I don't have the intelligence briefings that I'm not the president of the United States or anything like that. That's just me. That's just my opinion as a journalist. So.
Well, sure, I get it, and I think that we're all just
fatigued.
It's just fatigue. We're just fatigued, which is the name of the segment, and that's what we're dealing with. So anyway, I love that Laura, who's on the right, is asking tougher questions of J.D. Vance here and putting him in positions that he has to defend some of this stuff. Now, again, we've said it a million times. We're just outside looking in. We don't know what intelligence they had. We don't know what intelligence they have currently. None of that. So we're not privy to that information. And so for us to sit here and pass judgment and say, no way we should be doing this, I think that's us clinging to what Trump said on the campaign trail leading up to 2024. That no new wars and all of this stuff, and he was really talking about the Ukrainian thing. But I also agree with him on a lot of respects that Iran they've not been held in check on with a serious red line drawn and all of that stuff. They've not been held by anybody, any United States president for the last 47 years. Donald Trump is the only one that's just. Hell, he killed. How many leaders are they on their third leader now? He's killed several of them already and killed a lot of their cabinets. But as we know, that ideology, that radical Islamic terrorism that they live and breathe by, it's infesting, and it continues to come back into power there. So
it's such an interesting seesaw that you go through, because it's like, hey, the war is certainly makes the midterms more difficult, but then you do have the aspect of apparently what the rhetoric is going to be moving forward is, well, the Democrat socialists, and so we're not the Democrat socialists. And so we're going to make this about the Democrats being socialist, which, again, is a message that is true. But I've known that they're socialists and communists. We've known this for the last 15 years. We'll see if it works. Here is J.D. Vance on the subject of what the Democrats are going to run on.
This is exactly what El Sayed and these limousine socialists are actually selling to the American people. They're not promising you industry. They're not promising you good jobs. They're not promising self-sufficiency and a good industrial economy. What they're promising is redistribution. Again, we've seen this in Europe and in the United States. The idea that you can build real prosperity by just redistributing assets from one group to another group, that's not how you build real prosperity. You have to actually sustain the foundation of the economy. That is what the President of the United States has worked us towards for the past 18 months. It's going to continue to pay dividends. But I think, again, Laura, this is an important point. A lot of Americans look at this rising tide of socialism and say, how did we get here? We got here by 40 years of bipartisan leaders selling our industrial base to foreign countries, allowing low-wage immigrants to come in and compete with Americans for jobs, by destroying the foundation of the middle class. That's how you got socialism. How you fix that problem is by doubling down on Donald Trump's economic nationalism, not going back to the way we've done things for the past 40 years.
You certainly have to expand the middle class, and the reason is simple. The simplest reason why the middle class is an affront and offensive to the globalists and to those people that just want to see America as not a nation but an economic zone is because the middle class, by and large, the vast majority, believe in the right to privacy, the right to freedom of speech, the right of parents over their kids. The middle class believes that, whereas the uber wealthy don't really care as much. The very, very poor just want to be helped out of their circumstances, and so they're more likely to go along with whatever the elite says to do. And
it destroys.
So the attack on the middle class is to basically, I see an attack on the middle class fundamentally as an attack on the Bill of Rights, because if there's not enough people that care about the Bill of Rights, then the Bill of Rights functionally don't exist.
Yeah,
that's the 30,000-foot view. Yes, the manufacturing. Yes, the job. You got to have all that in order to have a healthy middle class. But that's where I see things.
Well, the middle class and the upper middle class, that's the taxpayer base that is getting crapped on the most, right? The Jeff Bezoses of the world, these billionaires, he makes a salary of $1 million per year. 1 million. Okay. That man has got private jets. He's got all of the far exceeding what 1 million is. Well, it's because he doesn't want to take an income. If he takes an income, then he has to pay taxes on that. And so he takes a minimal income, pays minimal amount in taxes. He's worth $250 billion at the height of Amazon here, but so he's worth all of this money. Well, he's got all of that is a tax deduction. So those people are not paying. Now, Amazon workers and all of that and the contributions that Amazon is making to, some would call it contribution, some would call it destruction because they're destroying some of the mom and pops and all of that stuff. But listen, that's always going to happen. It's just really way too convenient to order something on Amazon and have it show up to your house sometimes the same day. But a lot of times the next day or 2 days later, you're like, there's no sense in driving to the store, getting out, doing all this stuff. Anyway, I'm not trying to make it all about Amazon. I'm just trying to say that the middle class and the upper middle class, their taxes, they're paying 35% of their taxes. And, they're not getting all of these breaks that the lower class that's not paying any taxes. 50% of the United States doesn't pay any taxes, whatsoever.
That's right.
Right. And so I'm not trying to make this all about taxes, but you're talking about these people that have a designated interest here in seeing that our government is actually working for the people rather than just these complete bureaucrats, as you call them, that are in control of this country, and that's where we're getting.
So in keeping with the midterm talks, I think it's this is an interesting exchange. We've got a lot of burrito talk over on X over the last 48 hours. Andrew Colvett talks about a Turning Point USA college student was giving his take on affordability and basically saying, look, a burrito shouldn't cost you $20. And so then he says, yeah, a lot of this is a hangover from COVID and Biden-era inflation, but the lived experience is the same. It just feels like basic things cost too much. This is in response to Matt Walsh, who says grocery prices are insane. They're still rising. Addressing this problem should be the number one priority of every elected leader. End the stupid foreign wars. Focus on this issue. It's one of the main reasons socialists are gaining power. To where Mark Thiessen says, Crimea River, the burritos in college cafeteria are included in your meal plan. Now, what an elitist ivory tower thing to say. In response to Mark Thiessen, J.D. Vance comes in from the ropes, says, I'm surprised to hear Mark say this. If you've ever met him in person, it's quite obvious this man has never missed a burrito.
I love it that that's our president of the United States.
So we've got
that our he's our vice president. Our president would say, "I'm surprised to hear Mark say this. He's such a fat loser slob." You know, like J.D. Vance said the same thing, but a little bit more eloquently.
It's interesting that we need to be careful. Okay, what we need to be careful with this, because I know you can just say look, the affordability crisis and inflation and Biden or whatever, or packages shrinking. My wife the other day was noticing that there was only 1 or 2 big bags of salad at the grocery store. They were all gone, and they had smaller bags priced the exact same brand, smaller packaging, less salad, same price. And so we were noticing that. But you have to remember that when we were all experiencing the affordability crisis under Biden in 2024, and it was a big issue, what was the left saying? They were basically saying, no, everything's fine. So we want to be careful to not ignore. Obviously, we don't want communism. We don't want socialism is the answer. But I do think you at least have to admit and find a way to say, hey, yeah, look, this is, we've got a lot more work to do. We have a lot more work to do on this front.
Well, if you go overall to what Matt Walsh is trying to say there, he's like, to your point there, if you get rid of these foreign wars, like if these socialists, the reason that they're winning, again, is what Matt was saying, is that they're speaking to these vulnerabilities. They're speaking to these people that are pain points, the things that are pain points in people's lives. And we know it's bull. It's complete bull.
Look,
the crap that they're trying to do.
Here's the deal. Look, I mean, if they'd actually made the Elon Musk cuts, okay, if they'd actually given tariff checks or, and I know the Supreme Court really screwed us on the tariffs, but if they would have given us Doge checks, and I'm just saying from a pure populist level, okay? All right, don't try to Milton Friedman your economics to me right now. If we would have abolished the IRS, I mean, if you'd have done those things, I mean, you can say the big beautiful bill, but most people they don't know what's in the big beautiful bill. Most people don't. They have no idea. I mean, tax cuts, but this is the uphill battle. Brandon Gill, everything that directly impacts your life, affordability, safety, cultural stability, all of it is downstream of immigration. Now, this is a good message. This is a good message from Brandon Gill, and it's one that should be adopted moving forward in the next 3 months. All of it is downstream of immigration. The choice to vote for a Democrat Party committed to opening our borders to the world is a choice to commit civilizational suicide. We've already had the Supreme Court ruling on birthright citizenship that basically says, yes, you must commit civilizational suicide. It's what the 14th Amendment says you must do. Yes. And we're going to recover from this if we can focus. If we can focus and do the right thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Honestly, that little paragraph right there by Brandon Gill should be on every campaign ad for every Republican running for office this midterm. That should just be the drum beating loud.
Yep.
The answer to the problems that we're facing today are not to put the people who caused them back in office.
Yep.
That's not
honestly,
the truth.
And what I would also do with this messaging is admit, more so than ever, like what is abundantly clear to me is that United States Senate is not afraid of Donald Trump, and I think that's because he endorsed people like the late Senator Lindsey Graham. I really do. I think there's things like that. They are not afraid of President Trump at all. I think you pair that message with an admission that there are people within our own movement that are working to subvert it And that's why I think that you could even add some sort of verbiage in there about that, a talking point in there about that as well. But there has to be honesty.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some level of an admission in this midterm saying, yeah, we have had roadblocks.
Yeah.
We have not been able to do everything we wanted because people in our own movement are, call them traitors if you want, that's fine. Here's William Wolf from the Center of Baptist Leadership who writes, like it or not, electoral politics, not politics proper, is almost entirely driven by emotion and grievance. And the burrito discourse is a fascinating insight into how the left is so much better at that than the establishment right.
Mm-hmm.
When a liberal voter says burritos are too expensive, the left says, you're right, we'll give you free burritos if you vote for us, and we will punish evil big burrito. When conservative voter says burritos are too expensive, free market establishment Republicans in their mouthpieces say, suck it up, how you feel is stupid. I remember when I could buy 99cent burritos at Taco Bell. Merits aside, it's not all that surprising that one of those is a winning message, see the rise of the DSA, and one is not.
And they've got the Chipotle.
Right, and I've already seen that today. Like, oh, well, when I couldn't afford food and I was already working, I took up a second job. And yeah, there's plenty. You can still do that. That's true, but it does miss the point of how much more expensive things are than they were. And even if that's not true, the perception of it is real, and the perception is reality for most voters, and that's what it is. And I'll also say, piggybacking off of the Iran thing, like it's great that gas prices are lowering, and they have lowered before, and then they've come back up, and then they've lowered before, and they've come back up, based on however many times we're going to end the war. And that makes it feel like an endless war, even though it's only 5 months. But people, the reason this needs to stop is because it's still a thing of stress. I mean, in last year, I did not look at what the gas prices were. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really paying. They were whatever. They weren't high. They weren't super low. But they were good. I knew they were good. And and now people are looking at the price every day. What's the price today? What's the price today? What's the price today? That also has a psychological toll on your voter, whether they're right, center, left, or whatever, where they're just saying you're now making this something they have to worry about while also taking care of their families.
Right.
That's a problem. I'm just telling you, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it's a little bit ridiculous that a barrel of oil is $76 and gas is still over $3 a gallon here in Arkansas. I'm sure it's over $4 a gallon in many other places, and then it's probably $30 a gallon in California. But the issue there is that they go up really quickly when oil prices go up, and they come down very slowly, and that's very frustrating. So they're going to have a resolution to this, so that these gas prices get down before the midterms. You saw what Biden did in 2022. He released all the from the oil reserves to try to, to try to lower the gas prices leading into midterms. It was just total manipulation, but at least he was smart enough, or the Democrats were smart enough to know that, hey, if we've got $4 a gallon in gas going into these midterms, it's going to be a red wave. And so we're all tired of the gas prices. I think when you think, a lot of people, maybe when you're out of gas, you just go to the gas station and you fill up. You just fill up your tank. But what people are having to do now is they're having to go and say, all right, I'm going to put $40 worth of gas in my vehicle. Whereas because filling it up might cost $80, right? So I'm just going to put enough in there right now and hope that gas prices go down before I burn out this $40 a gallon. Or many other people that are just choosing to, drive a whole lot less because they need to go, but they're just like, well, I'm just going to have to wait because it's just too expensive. Mm-hmm. That is what's going to kill the Republicans in November. That and the cost of these groceries. And I mean, if you tried to buy a couple of pounds of ground beef here lately, I mean, it's just ridiculous. The package that used to be $7 is now $23, mm-hmm. And it's not even, and you just look at it and you're like, well, this is $23.
There's an easy way to go to fix that. You have to have Republicans go after the meat pack. This is a meat packing cartel that in many cases is tied to the cartel, some of these big players here. You could have done that these last 2 years. You could have done that.
Yeah.
They could have gone after these people.
That's right.
And gotten the prices
And
down.
then squandered it.
But the lobbyists have their ear. You don't think the meatpacking lobbyists have a foot in the door to the agricultural committees on the Senate and the House? Of course they do.
Yeah.
But this is the problem, is that this it makes me so mad, because that one right there, I'm sorry, I really do want brisket prices to come down. So, but there's a reason. This is not me just joking around. Like, there's a reason. Like, I'm actually passionate about this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a simple fix. You go talk to an average cattle farmer, and the price is one thing. It does not translate to what we're paying at the store. It's the meat packers, and I don't think it's just about money. Yes, they want to make money, but they also want us to eat less meat, because I think eating meat is actually healthy, and it's a big defense against a lot of the environmental toxins. Especially, I think no-carb diets and keto diets are great, here and there or whatever. But there's a lot of people that are now doing them year-round, and you know what? They're healthier. And one of the reasons there's just so many toxins. There's toxins in the air. There's toxins in the water. Then you look at big food. You look at all those chemicals, mono, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, sorry, that's me on a tangent, but
well, I mean,
that's a problem they could have solved.
Your tangent about brisket prices and beef is the same as mine about transgenderism, which is why they're on our lower thirds here. But I will agree with you. And then also, you remember Trump here, sort of maybe a few months into his presidency, was trying to buy cattle from he was trying to buy beef, or he was trying to bring it in from different countries. And all of these cattle farmers here in the United States were just raising, like, all you're going to do is just put us out of business and all of that stuff. But to your point, had Trump gone after the right people, which is the middleman, okay, there's a place in Paragould where I can go get a brisket, and it comes directly from the butcher shop. He's USDA. He's got his own cattle out there, and he butchers them, and he cuts them up, and you sell them. That meat is great, and it's a lot cheaper, right? Because we know by the time it goes to the grocery store and goes through all of this stuff, there's at least a 50% markup on all of this stuff. And so that's just one thing. That's just one thing. Just think about this. We're coming toward the end of summer, but here in Arkansas, fall football weather, that's grilling season. And we're doing that in the summertime too, but the fall in Arkansas is football. It is grilling. That is, everybody is tailgating. It is about the meat. And if we don't get some relief on these grocery prices, again, going into these midterms, it's over. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter that the Democrats caused this. It doesn't matter that they are absolutely worse for affordability than Republicans will ever be. It does not matter. A voter is going to look at how much they paid at the gas pump, how much they paid at the grocery store. They're going to look at these foreign wars as well. That's what they're going to be thinking as they go to the polls, and they're going to say, the Republicans are in power, I'm voting the other way, And
I think that's true for independents. Obviously, there's not going to be a lot of Republicans that are going to vote for Democrats.
No. Just going back to what I said yesterday,
even independents are probably not going to do that.
But it's about turnout. That's my whole point.
Turnout,
it's like those Republicans just never came. They just never came to the poll that day. Because they're not motivated.
Right.
They're like, there's nothing like an existential crisis to motivate a voter turnout.
Yeah. Real quick, I don't know what comedian said it, but at one point I remember it. I don't know who it was. It might have been Dave Chappelle or whatever. Been like, I'm not an organ donor because what if they find a way to bring my body back to life and I ain't got no eyes? They gave my eyes away. I don't think that was Dave Chappelle. That seems a little too reductive. RFK Jr. though has revoked the state of Kentucky's decertified Kentucky's organ procurement organization, Network for Hope. Listen to this.
I'm announcing that HHS has become the decertification of Network for Hope, the organ procurement organization serving Kentucky and parts of Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia.
Now, why is he doing this? Listen to this.
Hello, all. Senator Kennedy, Administrator Ingalls. I'm Donna Rohr, T.J. Hoover's sister. I was there. I saw what happened to my brother. They prepared to recover his organs while he was still alive. During that honor walk, his eyes were open. He was tracking me, and they told me it was just reflexes. Then during the heart cath, he was thrashing, crying, and grabbing the doctor's hands to stop him. Even after those signs, the organ procurement process continued until the physician refused to proceed. One of the organization's own coordinators called the home office after the doctor refused. She was told, "Find another surgeon or you'll lose your job because we're finishing this case." My brother almost died that day. That should never happen to anyone. Laws and standards were clearly violated. Those responsible must be held accountable. When they
The cries you hear in the audience are the surviving brother.
finally
who did
stopped and
survive.
acknowledged TJ was still alive, they sent him home with me and said, "Make him comfortable. He will not last." Well, it's been 5 years and he's still here. I'm grateful every day for that, but he is not the same. He has nightmares. He struggles remembering things. And he asked me, "Sis, why did they want to kill me?" I don't have an answer for him.
I mean, obviously, he sounds like he is, mentally disabled, just based on the, context clues here. So this is even worse.
Well, it could be cerebral. It could be cerebral palsy,
Yeah.
where their brain is completely activated in there.
You're
It's
exactly
just that their
right.
body is betraying
But
them.
to the point, though, it's like it's even worse. It's like, oh well, this kid is, this kid is not doesn't have a normal life, so we're going to kill him and take his organs.
It's disgusting, man.
I mean, come on. What is going on with the medical community? Why are you people a bunch of Dr. Frankensteins and Jack Kevorkians? And, I mean, what is going on? The lack of trust that we have in these institutions now is at an all-time low. I mean, COVID did that, but now it's like, now you've got to go rush to the DMV, and people are now saying to do this. If you are an organ donor, they're saying remove it. You can always choose to donate after.
Sure.
But these organizations, and this is not an isolated incident, where they are killing people for their organs before they are dead.
I forget where this was. It was a couple of years ago, but there was a report of a state that would not let you take yourself off of the donor list.
Really?
You had to fill. They would let you, but you had to go fill out all this paperwork and all of this stuff, and they try to pull at your heartstrings because they look at you on the slab as there's a healthy lung, there's a healthy heart, all of that stuff. It's just that they're brain dead or something. I don't know, whatever the case may be. And so I've always been nervous about that. Like, listen, I don't want a machine keeping me alive. But if it's a temporary situation where my body has to recover and all of that, don't be ripping my organs out, especially if I'm still, not end of life.
It's insane. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll be wishing you a happy Friday morning when we do. Thank you to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, and Sheriff Chiropractic. Also, don't forget, it's the Healing Veterans Project. Go there now. That's healingveterans.us. Scan the QR code on your screen and help us help a veteran heal. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Paul Harrell Program.